In today's video, we will take a look on how to add dark and light mode to your Next.js application. We will first see how to add a theme changer to your application, and then how to display or manipulate the CSS based on the selected theme. And then we will also take a look on how we can utilize this theme changer with Tailwind CSS. So let's get started. So first, I will create a new Next.js application with create next app. And I will choose no for TypeScript, no for ESLint, no for Tailwind CSS for now, no for SRC. Then we will want to use the app router, so yes, and for this no, and let's wait for it to run. Okay, great, let's open it up in VS Code like this, and I will just fire up the dev server to see that everything is working. Let's open the browser, go to the localhost 3000, and let's see the application. Okay, looks like everything is okay. So just to make everything really clear, I will create a very basic example of the changing of the theme. So what I'm going to do is open up the app folder, then from there the page.js, and I will actually clean everything from this page.js file like this, and then I will just return a div with a paragraph saying hello world like this. And I can remove these from up here, and let's save it and switch to the browser, and looks like we are getting the hello world text. Okay, good. So in order for us to change the theme and get the current theme, we will use this next themes npm package. So let's go and install it. I will copy this from here, go to the VS Code, stop the server, and paste in the yarn add command like this. So now we have the library added. So I'm gonna yarn dev again, so we get our dev server back on and see in the browser that it's working. Looks like everything is okay. Great. So let's switch back to the VS Code. And over here, I will open up the layout file. So with app directory, this is the layout file. And from here, I'm just gonna delete this font stuff, and then also from down here, like this, because we don't need those right now. And then also open up the global.css file and just remove everything from here too. So that's the file that we are importing up here. Okay, so in order for us to add the theming for this application, we need to import a theme provider from Next Themes. So let's do that like this. And then we need to wrap our content down here inside of the theme provider. So let's do that like this. So let's save it and check out the browser. So looks like we are getting an error saying that create context only works in client components. And this is because our layout.js is now a server component. And if we wanted to use this as a client component, we would need to add this use client directive at the top of the file over here. But that's something we don't want to do at the moment. We want to keep it as a server component because there is another way to add this theme provider over here without converting this to a client component. So let's see how that's done. So what I'm going to do is actually add a new file to our app folder called providers.js like this. And over here, I will import the theme provider. So I will copy it from the layout and remove it from there. And then I will actually just return a component from here like this. And right now I'm just returning the children in a div. But what we actually want to do is to wrap these children in a theme provider. So over here, I will replace this div with theme provider like this. And now if I go to the layout.js, I can get rid of this theme provider over here. And what I want to do is import that providers component we just created. So let's do that like that. And then let's wrap these children inside of that provider component like this. Let's save it and see if we still get an error. So it looks like we are getting an error. It's the same error. And actually this is because our providers component is also a server component because we are not defining this as a client component. So you remember that with app directory, all the components are by default server components if we don't define them as client components. So in order for this to work, let's make this a client component like this. So now our providers.js is a client component and we are wrapping the children inside of it, and that way adding the theme provider for our application. So let's save everything and switch to the browser, and looks like we are getting a hello world, so we got rid of all those errors. Okay, so right now our text is black and the background is white. And what we want to do is be able to change the theme so all this changes. So the next step is to create a theme changer, or this kind of switch or drop down that we can select the theme that we want to use. So let's do that next. But before we do that, I just want to quickly tell you about the sponsor of this week's episode, Integrify. Because if you are looking to learn on-demand tech skills, you should definitely check out Integrify Academy. It's a coding academy operating across Europe and offering full-stack development as well as data science and machine learning programs online in Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, and the Netherlands. They have trained more than 1,000 students since 2016 and organized dozens of programs. You don't only get a boost on your technical skills in web development or data science, but also provide one-on-one career coaching services, CV and cover letter reviews, and a lot more. So if you are looking to level up your skills and boost your career in tech, check out Integrify Academy today. I will leave a link down into the description. I will go to the VS Code and I'll create a new component inside of our app folder called theme switcher. And let me just add some code over here and let's then go through it together. Okay, so first, in order to change the theme, we need to import the use theme hook from the next themes. And then over here, we are just defining our theme switcher component and then using the use theme hook to get the current theme and also to change the theme. And then we render the current theme just as a text and then button for setting the light mode and dark mode. So when clicked, we are just calling the set theme function and passing in the theme as a parameter. So this should be everything we need. So let's save this and go to the layout.js file. And I want to add this to the top of the page so we can see it on every page. So let's first import it like this, and then we can render it down here like this. Let's save it and switch to the browser to see if it works. Okay, we get the client component error, so we forgot to make this a client component. So let's do that like this. So let's save it and switch to the browser and let's see what we get. Okay, so we get the current theme over here and the light mode and dark mode buttons, but it looks like we have a couple of errors. So let's tackle those right now. So we are getting an error hydration failed because the initial UI does not match what was rendered on the server. So this error is actually because the theme is only known on the client side on the browser, and when rendered on the server, we don't know what the theme is. So some of the values for the use theme hook, for example, are undefined. So we are getting this hydration error because of that. And in order to fix this, we can do this one thing that they actually mention in the npm page of the next themes over this avoid hydration mismatch section. So the idea here is that if we scroll down a little bit over here, they have a version of the theme switcher. So what we can do is render the UI that uses the current theme only when the page is mounted on the client side. We can do it like they list over here. So let's add this to our application. So what I'm going to do first is go to the VS Code and open our theme switcher And up here, I will import the useState and useEffect hooks like this. Then inside the component, I will create a piece of state called mounted like this, and it will default to false. And then before the rendering part, I will just add if statement checking that if it's not mounted, return null. And also we want to add a use effect in which we set the set mounted to true like this. And then let's add the dependency error like this, save it. So right now, when this component is mounted on the client side, this use effect will be called and the set mounted set to true. And then after that, this part will be rendered. And because we are on the client side, we will know the theme already. So it should work. So this was the theme switcher. So one other place we need to add this same kind of logic is the providers. So let me just do that and let's continue from there like this. And one difference between this and the theme switcher one is that now when the component is not mounted, instead of returning a null, we will return the children wrapped with React fragments. So this is the shorthand for React fragments. Okay, let's save this and switch to the browser and see if we get anything in here. So I'll refresh the page and looks like the errors disappeared and we no longer get any warnings down here either. Okay, great. So now it's time to do some styling. So I will open up the globals.css file, and in here I will add some CSS to style our light mode and dark mode. So let's start with the light mode. So I will just modify the body element for this example. So let's do a simple one. Select color to set it black and the background color set it to white like this. So let's add some styles for the dark mode too. And how we can do that is by targeting the data theme and checking if that is dark. And I will select the body also. And here, let's say we want to set the background color to black and color to white. So the opposite ones for the light mode. Let's save this and switch to the browser and see what happens. So now we are on the light theme currently. So let's click the dark mode and looks like the background goes to black and the text stays white. And if we go to light mode, it changes again. So it looks like our styles are working. And the reason why the dark mode works, so why we use this kind of syntax when targeting the dark mode styles, is because if we click right here and select inspect and check out the HTML element, we can see that it has the data theme attribute with the value of dark. And if we click the light mode, it will set the theme to light. So that's why we can target the dark mode with this kind of syntax in our CSS. And this is the default behavior of the theme provider. And we will actually use different kind of behavior when we are using Tailwind CSS. And I will show you an example of that in just a minute. And one thing I want to mention is that if we take a closer look on this HTML element, and when we change the themes, we can see that the color scheme is also changing for the style attribute. And what this does, and actually let me open up a documentation. So if you are not familiar with color scheme, it's a CSS property that allows an element to indicate which color scheme it can comfortably be rendered in. So if we set it to dark, it will automatically use these dark values, and with light, the light values. So actually, if we change back to our application and go to the VS Code, and actually if we delete our styles from here and save this, I think this should still work. So let's refresh the page, and right now it's the light mode, but now if I go to the dark mode, we can see that the dark mode is activated. And that's because the color scheme is set to dark also when selecting the dark mode. But just for example purposes, so how we can target the different themes, I will leave this over here. And of course, we don't have to use these styles. So let's say we wanted to have the text as red when using the dark mode. We can change it up here, switch to the browser, and the text is displayed red when dark mode, and in light mode it will be black. So if you need some custom CSS for your elements, this might be the way you want to go with. But if you just want to add this default dark behavior, you don't even need this CSS over here. All you need is to add this providers.js and then use it in your layout.js file like this. And of course, add the theme switcher, and you could make this nicer. Right now, I just made it 2 buttons to make it easy and simple. So this is how you can use the themes to manipulate the basic CSS. So next, let's see how we can set up this theme changer with Tailwind CSS. Okay, so next, let's see how to use this theme changer with Tailwind CSS. So what I'm going to do is actually create a new fresh Next.js application with Tailwind CSS. So I will stop this server over here and go back to my terminal. And right here, I will just create a new Next.js application like this. So I will hit enter. And for this, I don't want to use TypeScript, neither ESLint, but for Tailwind CSS, I will select yes, and no for SRC, yes for app router, and no here, and let's wait it to run. Okay, let's open it up in VS Code like this. And for this also, I will just open the page and remove everything from here as we did last time. And then just return a div with a text like this. And I will also just remove this import from here. Let's save it. Next, let's just fire the dev server and see that everything is working. I will switch to the browser, refresh the page, and looks like we are getting the hello world. And we are actually getting it as a dark theme already. And that's because my system theme is dark, and this recognizes that, and that way it shows the dark theme already. But next, let's add the theme switcher we did earlier. So I'm gonna go to the VS Code and add the yarn add next themes. And now we want to add the provider again. So what I'm actually gonna do is switch back to the first application and just copy everything from our providers.js and switch back to the new application with Tailwind CSS and create a providers file like this, paste in the code and save it. And then for the layout, I will switch back to the first application and just copy this whole layout also from here, and then back to the new application, select everything and paste in the code. So now we are still missing the theme switcher. So let's do the same thing for that. So switch to the old application, copy the theme switcher, everything from there, and then back to the new application, create a new file for that theme switcher and paste in the code like this. Let's save it. And now if we open the dev server and switch to the browser, we are getting the hello world and the theme changer up here, and it looks a bit nasty, but these should be buttons. So when clicked, we are actually changing the theme, as we can see. So when we click the light mode, the theme will be changed to light, and with dark mode, it will be changed to dark. And let me actually switch back to the VS Code and modify the theme switcher a bit. I will add line breaks over here. Let's save it and see it again. So now the current theme is dark. With light mode, it goes to light. Dark mode, it goes to dark. And we can see up here that the data theme is changing as it was earlier. But now it's not working because with Tailwind, we need to actually use something else. So let's go back to the VS Code. And when using Tailwind, we need to pass for this theme provider a prop called attribute. And as a value for that, we want to pass in class like this. So let's save it. And now if we go to the browser, Let's refresh the page. So now when we change between the themes, we can see that there is no longer a data theme attribute, but there is now a class that is changed based on the theme. So that's how Tailwind uses it. And now we still have everything in black. So let's add some Tailwind styles to style our application. So first I'm gonna actually open the global.css and I will remove everything from here except the Tailwind imports up here. So let's save it and let me just see in the browser if anything changes. Okay, so now we are getting the light mode and dark mode when switching the themes. And this is now because the color scheme style attribute. So we are still not using the Tailwind, but bear with me. So now that we removed everything from the global CSS, let's switch back to the page component. So over here we have the hello world. So now let's say we wanted to make this text red whenever we are using the dark mode. Well, with Tailwind CSS we can do that with classes. So if we want to target a dark mode style or add a style or add a class when the dark mode is active, we can do that by typing in dark colon and then the class we want to add. And for this, let's add text red 900 like this. So now whenever the dark mode is active, this class will be applied for this div. So let's save it and switch to the browser. And we can see that it's now displayed in red since we have the dark mode active. So let's switch to the light mode and we can still see actually that the text is red. And this is because we still need to add one configuration to our application. So right now the text red 900 class is applied to this text whether or not the theme is light or dark. So in order for us to have this dark theme working with Tailwind CSS, we need to still modify the tailwind.config.js over here. So let's open that up. And inside here, we need to add a dark mode attribute and set it to class. So what this basically tells to Tailwind is that the dark mode information will be found from the class of the HTML element. So now let's save this and switch back to the browser. And what do you know? Now the text is black. So if we switch to the dark mode, the text is red, and with light mode, it's black. So that's all you have to do in order to use the dark or light mode with Tailwind CSS. I really hope you found this video at least somewhat helpful, and if you did, please let me know by leaving a comment down below and liking the video.